Beep, beep, beep. How we doing, good peeps? How we doing? Right, we're going down under for a bit of Australian news, a bit of New Zealand news in the world of psychiatry. But before we do, become a warrior teacher. Come and join us. Have some fun in the new year. We're starting in January. Other than that, buy me a coffee, share, blah, 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 usual, right? So let's move on swiftly from my nonsense and talk about what's going on with psychiatry. So something's happened in New Zealand that's worth hearing about, in Australia. And I think we will see more moves ahead in the new year on this particular front. So this is an article by Bernard Lane from the 15th of December in Gender Clinic News. Be warned, this is what the title is here, subtitle. Psychiatrists in Australia and New Zealand have been put on notice that detransitioners may feel harmed by brackets gender affirming medicine, that some have launched lawsuits, and that the true rate of treatment regret is unknown. Now, we knew this was coming. You, me, and everybody else knew this was coming, right? Richie reported the other day, 50,000. 50,000 people have been through this bloody nonsense surgery. And, you know, gender-affirming care and whatever the hell they call it. And that's just in the US, and that's just pre-COVID. I think the numbers are far higher. I'm with Richie on this one. I think the numbers are far higher. Right. So the new warning appears in an updated position statement, and the link is in there for you to see the position statement, on the hot button topic of gender dysphoria, which I have now come to the conclusion, in all my not knowing anything about psychology and psychiatry, that doesn't exist. It's just body dysmorphia or other comorbidities. We just need to call this the distress. People are in distress. So this was issued by the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists without any publicity. The document, which blends gender ideological jargon with a defence of traditional comprehensive assessment and formulation, also recognises that some former patients conclude their dysphoria was due to other non-gender issues such as trauma, internalised homophobia and mental health problems. I mean, for goodness sake. For goodness sake. Then there's a quote. It is not known how many individuals who detransition experience regret and how many are satisfied with the changes they have made. The statement says, while regret appears to be infrequent, the true regret rate is unclear. Yeah, right. This is a surgery that has a 100% failure rate. You can't change your sex. Get used to it. Gender-affirming activists seek to minimise the significance of detransition, which undermines the dogma that even young children and teenagers are experts in gender identities untethered from their birth sex. You know, spend some time talking to detransitioners might be a good idea. Kemi said it in Parliament the other day, didn't she? Oh, I spent time with Keira Bell against the advice of people in the ministers. She went anyway, and that's what did it, right? I think the number of detransitioners is enormous. I think the number that have a regret is enormous. I think the number that have been abandoned by the very people who mutilated them in the first place is enormous. And I think that we're going to see lawsuits coming out of our ears. And I think that we are going to have to recognise that we have damaged thousands of people in what is essentially a medical catastrophe. And from my perspective, a crime against humanity. It is that bad. It's eugenics on steroids. In 2021 journal debate over the extent of transition regret, researcher Dr. Ken Pang from the Gender Clinic at the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne and colleagues said, the only relevant case of regret of which we are aware is Keira Bell, the detransitioner who took the London-based Tavistock Clinic to court, although presumably there are others. What that one wasn't enough. That one that said, hang on a minute, I deeply regret that I was talked into having an operation with a 100% failure rate. That's clear-cut stuff to me. Is it clear-cut stuff to you? You let me know in the comments. Against this background, the acknowledgement of the plight of detransitioners and its account of the depression, anxiety and difficulty in getting help is seen as a positive step by sceptics of the gender-affirming worldview. So Australia and New Zealand moving forward. It is welcome, says the quote here, to see the college officially recognise the phenomenon of regret and detransition, the harm that this has caused and the associated risks of medical malpractice litigation, and the special need for dedicated services for this group of detransitioners now and in the future. A senior psychiatrist speaking anonymously to avoid activist harassment told Gender Clinic News. This is not the first time in the last few weeks that I've heard about a psychiatrist who's worried about harassment in this country, in the UK. So we've now got it in New Zealand as well, and Australia. Sydney psychiatrist Dr. Patrick Toohey has been sued in the New South Wales NSW, New South Wales, if I got that right, Supreme Court by regretful detransitioner Jay Langandinos. The case is in its early stages. At least one potential test case involving disputed access to gender medicine for a minor has been settled in the Australia Families Court. So they settled it in one case. We don't need a settlement. We need a full-blown, you lose, pay millions, no NDA, no keeping it quiet, so that the insurance companies will then go, we are no longer covering this medicine. We are no longer covering this medicine. We get the insurance companies to stop doing that. That's got to be the way forward. We then have another quote. I think this is a radical position statement from them to come out boldly to say that sex refers to the biological characteristics that define humans as male or female. At the very time when politicians in the Australian Senate hearings are being asked to define what a woman is, and they can't. The psychiatrist Dr. George Halaz, in an interview with the network, Gender News Network, 13th of December. So that was a conversation that was being had around that then. So the new statement follows an early review under pressure from the gender affirming lobby, unhappy with the college first considered and cautious position statement on gender dysphoria adopted as recently as September 2021. In a letter to the college 2 months later, a group of transgender lobbies lodged various objections, including that the use of the term comorbidities implies that being trans is a disorder. Being trans is a disorder. What is wrong with you? That particular statement has been cited internationally as one among other proofs of greater caution over gender medicalisation. This just updated 2023 version, so now we're into 2023, is a vast improvement on the previous iteration. According to a message to members of the Australian Professional Association for Trans Health. Now that's AusPath, right? So AusPath is the equivalent of WPATH, filled with loons, right? Who need to be struck off and imprisoned. So the AusPath, which functions as a gender affirming lobby group, right? So previously, AusPath were involved. This 2023 version, the new one, is better. Although the 2023 statement seeks to present trans identity as depathologized and attributes the associated mental health problems to a discriminative society, the document acknowledges divided expert opinion on gender dysphoria and does not embrace an affirmation-only approach. Right. 2021 statement. Full hardcore gender trans nutters, right? 2023 statement, still trying to depathologize the lunacy of somebody who thinks they're in the wrong body, right? Or fetishists who want to dress up or confuse kids. So 2021, hardcore gender trans, look up at you, hands, knees and bumps, daisy nonsense in Australia and New Zealand. 2023, hardcore gender trans, look up at you, nonsense, right? Still in the 2023 one, but it's a chink, folks. It's a chink in their armour. My winning mindset warriors will know why a chink in the armour is so important. So go and have a read of it. Fascinating. News from Down Under. Thanks so much for listening. Gender out. Gender out? Oh, God. Jester out.